Balance training is important for every client you will work with. Training for balance improves proprioception. That's the ability of the body to recognize where it is in space. When you train to improve the body's balance, you can improve coordination, increase the ability to produce smooth, controlled movements, and reduce injury risk. Balance training doesn't need to be time-consuming. There are simple ways you can incorporate it into a workout session, and in many cases, the client won't even know. However, there is a progression you will want to follow to make balancing gradually more challenging, and there are several types of equipment that can be used to challenge balance. First, make sure that all balance exercises are safe. You don't want to put a client in the position to fall or injure themselves. And for a well-rounded balance training program, you'll want to work in all 3 planes of motion: sagittal, frontal, and transverse. The general progressions for balance training are always simple exercises to complex exercises, stable surfaces to unstable surfaces, slow movements to fast movements, bilateral to unilateral, or 2 hands or 2 feet to 1 hand or 1 foot, static to dynamic, and you can even challenge balance with eyes open or eyes closed. Common equipment used for balance training includes the floor as the most stable surface, a balance beam, foam pads of various thickness, inflated balance discs, stability balls, BOSU balls, and balance and wobble boards. Let's look at an example of training balance while doing a bicep curl. The client should work through each of the following progressions slowly, not necessarily all in one training session. Following the progressions can help prevent movement compensations, minimize improper movement patterns, and prevent injury. First, the client would simply stand with both feet on the floor and execute a curl. The floor is flat, stable surface. Before moving them to an unstable surface, you'd want to progress them on the stable surface to a unilateral body position. That means 1 foot. Not every client can balance on 1 foot, so an option could be elevate 1 foot on a small step while they execute the bicep curl. Then progress by putting a medicine ball under the elevated foot, a slightly less stable surface. Once they master that, they can work towards standing on 1 foot. It should be noted that they should complete these progressions on both legs to keep their body in balance. After the stable surface, a client can move to an unstable surface, but they'll go back to 2 feet down. For example, they stand on a foam pad that is 2 inches thick while performing the bicep curl. From there, they can progress through the 1 foot progression again. Foot on a small step, foot on a ball, and then finally balancing on their own. This is a pretty simple example, but balance training can be implemented in many different ways. Stability balls are a useful tool for challenging balance for upper body exercises like the bench press, pullover, and chest fly. And single leg or single arm progressions work well with nearly everything, like a single arm bench press. It may seem simple, but the weight and balance forces the body to activate the core, hips, glutes, and shoulders to keep the client from rolling off the bench as the weight is moved. During programming, take the time to incorporate balance training into your clients' workouts. They'll thank you later.
Simply stated, training periodization is a plan. It allows you to separate an exercise program into distinct, purposeful blocks of time. Within these smaller blocks of time, it's easier to work towards specific training goals and adaptations. It's also easier to track the progress that is made. And most importantly, the cycles of periodization provide chunks of time that allow the body to recover. This helps reduce the risk of injury and prevent overtraining. There are 3 divisions in traditional training periodization. A macro cycle is the longest block. It's typically 1 year long and encompasses the entire training program as a whole. The macro cycle is broken down into mesocycles. These are typically 8 to 12 weeks long, which means there are 4 to 5 mesocycles in a macro cycle. The length of mesocycles makes them ideal for focusing on a single specific adaptation, like building strength or gaining muscle size. 2 to 3 months is more than enough time to make progress towards most training goals, assuming the training stimulus being applied is specific as well. Within each mesocycle, there are microcycles. These can be as long as a week or as short as a single training session. The microcycles are where you get to be more pointed with exercise selection, load, tempo, and other acute training variables that drive the desired outcomes. Microcycles also allow you to focus on specific muscle groups, body regions, or skills. These shorter time blocks allow for planning daily training goals, training splits, and rest days to promote physical recovery, all of which are necessary for metabolic, neuromuscular, cardiovascular, and mechanical adaptations from one microcycle to the next. When putting together training programs, it's often easier to start with the big picture and then work through the details. This means you'll begin with the overall training goal, the macrocycle. Then break it up into 4 to 5 smaller goals, the mesocycles. Each smaller goal can then be broken down into microcycles where individual workouts can be planned. Each individual training session should meet the parameters for sets, repetitions, tempo, percent of maximum load, exercise selection, and rest periods necessary to achieve the goal in the mesocycle it is in.
If you've been to a gym and hopped on a cardio machine, chances are you noticed a colorful chart with several heart rate zones on the console. These zones tell you what your heart rate should be depending on your goal. Often, there is a high intensity or anaerobic training zone and a moderate intensity aerobic training zone. The zone that really gets people's attention, though, is the one we're going to focus on, the fat burning zone. Because losing weight is a common goal for many gym goers, it makes sense that people would choose the fat burning zone as their level of intensity. Burning fat is exactly what they want to do. And coincidentally, the fat burning zone is low intensity. In other words, you can burn fat and avoid hard work. If you're thinking this sounds too good to be true, you're right. The fat burning zone is a bit misleading, and here's why. In order to lose weight, an individual needs to burn more calories than they consume. In the fat burning zone, it is true that fat is being utilized or burned as a primary fuel source. Higher intensity activities use much less fat as a source of fuel. So, doing some cardio and staying in the fat burning zone would seemingly be the best choice, but it's not. From a fat burning efficiency standpoint, that is great, but from a calorie burning perspective, you may be coming up short. This is why it's confusing. Let me clarify with an example. Let's say a client completes a 30-minute walking workout, and at a walking pace, about 70% of the calories burned come from fat. So over the course of 30 minutes, they burn a total of 200 calories. This equates to 140 calories burned from fat. Now, let's say that instead of walking, the client completes a high-intensity workout that only uses about 50% of the calories from fat. Over the course of the 30 minutes, they burn a total of 400 calories. This means that 200 of those calories came from fat. So, even though the fat burning zone used a higher percentage of fat for fuel, the higher intensity workout burned more calories from fat and overall calories, which is the ultimate goal for weight loss. Fitness professionals are experts in human movement and the musculoskeletal system. We also know a good amount about nutrition, since eating habits and energy balance are important factors in any fitness program or goal. The foundational nutrition information in this course will help you estimate a client's basal metabolic rate, daily calorie expenditure when taking their activity into account, and with this information, a general estimate of their daily calorie needs from food to support their goals. You're also learning about the 3 macronutrients: protein, carbohydrate, and fat. You can help clients make better food choices that promote overall health and, as always, support their fitness goals. However, it's outside of your scope of practice to create or prescribe specific meal plans for clients. You should not be telling a client exactly what foods or meals to eat, as this is a major liability. If that client takes your recommendation and becomes ill, you could be held responsible. Instead, refer clients to a licensed dietitian or their physician for this type of guidance. When it comes to supplements, our role is more informational. This course discusses many common supplements categorized as nutritional supplements, performance supplements, ergogenic aids, and botanical supplements. You're likely going to hear a lot of questions from clients about taking these supplements, adding them to their routines, or the benefits and drawbacks. The information in this course is presented to simply inform a personal trainer what each supplement does in the body and common reasons a client may take them. This is all information you can then use to educate clients and answer their questions. You should not be recommending or prescribing supplements to clients at any time. Instead, people who would like a supplement recommendation should be referred to their physician. Medical providers can further assess a client's need for supplementation and make prescriptive recommendations. As humans, we have two basic types of immunity. The first is called innate immunity, which is the body's natural ability to protect itself from harmful pathogens. For example, the mucus in your nose helps trap airborne particles that aren't good for the body. This helps prevent them from getting into and harming your lungs. Mucus also contains protective proteins designed to kill bacteria and viruses, which can reduce the risk of infection. The second type of immunity is acquired or adaptive immunity. This is the part of our immune system that responds to new pathogens. When it identifies a potentially harmful substance, it increases immune cells to destroy it. It does this by creating antibodies, and then it retains those antibodies in case it encounters that substance again. The foods we eat can affect whether our immune system functions as designed or not. If we aren't giving our immune systems the nutrients it needs to function at an optimal level, it can impair the body's ability to produce and/or activate immune cells and antibodies. Immune system function can also be reduced if poor nutrition leads to excess weight. This is because obesity and chronic inflammation often coexist. When the body is inflamed, it doesn't respond as well when exposed to pathogens. Certainly, not all diseases can be avoided, but many health agencies stress that diet is an important component. This is because proper nutrition can help prevent and sometimes help treat certain conditions. In fact, the American Heart Association calls healthy eating one of the best weapons to fight cardiovascular disease. The National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases has the same message. As a personal trainer, you'll help guide and empower healthy change, and you'll help clients understand how the choices they make can have a significant impact on their overall health. A healthy eating pattern isn't just essential for their fitness goals, it's also critical in reducing disease and infection.